O'clock. Today we're having our economic development director interviews. I've asked Commissioner Richardson to open us up with invocation and pledge.
Stand. Prayers up. Our Father, we thank you for the opportunity to take care of business that we need to take care of today, Lord. We thank you for the residents and the community in which we serve and which we serve, Lord. Just the opportunity to be a representative of people. We pray, God, that as we conduct these interviews, Lord, that you would give us wisdom and insight into the questions as well as the answers. I pray that you would give a calmness to our those who are being interviewed, Lord, that they might be able to answer in a way that's articulate, Lord, and we might be able to give the information that we need. Lord, guide us in our decisions, and Lord, in all things, may we bring honor and glory to the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. In his name we pray. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We had selected 4 names to interview earlier in the month. One of the names had withdrawn. We also received an email yesterday that Lacey Eckenberg would be withdrawing hers due to not being able to make it here. So today we will be interviewing 2 candidates, Mark Yard and Jimmy Norris. We got this interview scheduled for 9 and 9:30, so Mr. Yark, you're up first. I don't see Mr. Norris here, so if he was, I was going to ask him to step out, so if he wouldn't have an advantage.
I'll step out here and wait for him. Sure.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Yark, we'll start off. If you have an opening statement or anything that you'd like to address to the board, then we have some prepared questions that we're ready to ask you.
Okay. My name is Mark Garrick. I'm a second generation Floridian. Moved to Suwannee County about 17 years ago. Suwannee County resident, Suwannee County property owner, former Suwannee County business owner, former Suwannee County employer. My kids grew up here. They're both products of the Suwannee County school system. I'll brag a little bit. My daughter's 5th grade teacher, Suwannee County school system, worked on her master's. And my son is, he just got a teaching assistantship at Texas Tech. So he's heading out there in January to study his MFA, Master of Fine Arts in Theater, which his love of music started out in Mr. Michael's middle school band, as many of you may have also been the same way, and his love of theater on the stage at Suwannee High. So I have a lot to be proud of and thankful for Suwannee County and helping raise my family in a good environment. So for the last 5 years, I've been working with small businesses in the area, helping them grow and succeed. I work with an average of more than 100 businesses a year. Out of that contact, help businesses start, help them with the business planning process. I also work with existing businesses with expansion plans, access to financing. That work has generated, on average, year on year, for the last 5 years, about 10 business starts, about 50 new jobs every year, about $2.5 million in increased revenue each year, and almost $3 million in access to capital each year. So I'm pretty proud of those accomplishments. I have an undergraduate in business administration, master's degree in business administration. I'm certified economic development financial professional, which means that I close deals. Okay. And thank you so much for taking the time to interview me today. I feel privileged to be able to interview for this position. Thank you for your time. And I would say I missed the memo on the open call, or I'm the only guy with a time. So I apologize for overdressing.
Thank you, sir. We do have 10 questions. I'm going to ask commissioners to help me with the we'll start with you. If you'll just start with the first one, read it, and then Chanel state the second one, and we'll go on from there.
All right.
First question, what unique abilities do you possess that make you a suitable choice for the ED director?
Well, as I read the job description, I saw myself in the job description, working with entrepreneurs day in, day out, working with existing businesses day in, day out, troubleshooting, problem solving, trying to help them get from where they are now to where they want to be, and thinking of innovative ways to get there. Utilizing networking and the contacts that I have to help them have the connections they need to move forward. Also, access to capital, being creative about how to make deals work, being able to see deals, see what the issues are, and then go back and restructure those deals so that they can get the financing they need to move forward. And as I read through that whole list, I just said, well, this is the stuff I'm doing already. The difference is, who's the client? Right now, my clients are individual business owners that are trying to, reach their dream. And in this position, Suwannee County's the client. And you're taking the interests of Suwannee County in the economic development sphere and doing the same work, really. So that's why I decided to apply for the position, because I looked at the description and said, I'm already doing that, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. So.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions for
Ready.
anybody on that? If not, we'll go to the next question. Yes, sir.
Are you prepared to make numerous out-of-town and/or overnight stays, both in and out of state, when responsibilities or opportunities related to the position require?
I don't have any problem moving in and out of town for work. A few previous positions back, I was a teacher at Florida Gateway College, and in the summers, we visited all the students on their summer internship. So I spent a big chunk of the summer moving around, visiting students at their internship sites. In the businesses that I've been in, we've had annual conferences. The Small Business Development Center has an annual conference every year that I go to, and also professional development training that we go to that's often off-site. So I don't have any problem, or also don't have anything in town like work commitment or whatever that would hold me here and keep me from being able to go. So I'm prepared to do that.
Thank you.
Any follow-ups on
I
that?
have a question. Yes, on that, you said that you have visited some of the economic development summits or some similar to that. You have recently went to some summit, economic development.
Yes, sir. The last economic development conference I went to was, it was a year ago in December. The Small Business Development Center sponsors the North Florida Economic Development Partnership conferences. And so I go to their local or regional meetings and also go to their conferences when it works out with my schedule.
I attended several, but I didn't know, didn't know you. I was over in St. Augustine last December when we was over there.
Yeah, St. Augustine in
St. Augustine.
December. Yeah,
Last December.
yeah,
Good conference.
yeah.
Good attend.
Question to add to that.
Yes, sir.
Like we know, some of these things are conferences, are set up, we know well in advance. Would there be an issue if it's something come up where it was a spontaneous thing, you had to go? We need you, or the job calling you to go.
Right. Like I say, I don't have any other local requirements that keep me here besides family. So if there would only be a family issue, that would keep it from me, but otherwise it'd be available to go. And right now, I had a business for 15 years, dissolved it last year in December, so that's no longer an issue either. And so I'm available to go, and in my present job right now, I also do a lot of travel. Yesterday I was in Jacksonville for some professional development training. I spend a couple days a month in Baker County, a couple days in Columbia County, and visiting clients, so I'm often out and about.
Any other questions? All right, next question is describe your experience with public speaking and presentations.
So part of the deliverables that I'm required to give for my present job is workshop trainings in this very room. At the beginning of this year, I gave 6 workshops once a month on various business topics. And that's been a regular regimen of my routine for the last 5 years. Like I said, I taught at Florida Gateway College for 7 years in front of the classroom. So speaking with people comes sort of natural to me, especially if I'm very confident in the content that we're speaking about, and I'm well prepared, and it goes really well. So something I enjoy. I'm actually talking with the library right now. They expressed interest in setting up some business workshops. So this is sort of a normal, standard part of my routine. Another part of the deliverable for the Small Business Development Center is advocacy. And so I spend time speaking with Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, banks, and other stakeholders that would refer clients to us that we could help. So spend time working in that area as well.
Any follow-up questions? Thank you. Just on the next question.
Okay, how do you define economic development?
Economic development, I think you boil it down to 2 things. You're trying to increase the tax base, for one, and second of all, you're trying to create jobs that are at or above what the median is for that area. And I think that boils it down simply into 2 goals that you can go after. There's a lot underneath that, and I dealt with a lot of that in my 100 days letter to you. But underneath those 2 goals, you have to look at what are the resources that we have available to us, and then set up a strategic plan to figure out where you want to go, what's acceptable to the public, and where you want to go as a community to utilize the resources that you have and convert those into an increased tax base and jobs that are at or above your median limit. So, but just to put it simply, those 2 things are sort of like the tip of the iceberg.
Any follow-up? Next question.
What do you believe should be top considerations of any business considering relocation or startup here in Suwannee County?
Well, those are 2 separate questions. Relocation, according to statistics, over the last 10 years, the top 3 drivers of relocation have been, level of the workforce education, which we talk about a lot, and location. Actually, are we close and accessible to highways and logistics and transport and those things? And the third one is the price of the workforce. So you have a really well-trained workforce, but they price themselves out of the market. And those have been the top 3 consistently for the last 10 years. So that's what a business is going to look at on average as far as relocation. Startup is a whole different thing. In my work with startups, the most important thing is the business planning up front. It's not, we often say ready, shoot, aim, but a very logical process of setting up a business plan ahead of time, evaluating the idea, making sure that it makes sense, looking at the numbers, the projections, what am I going to make, how much is it going to cost, who am I going to sell it to, how much am I going to be able to generate, is it going to be sustainable, how much cash do I need up front to make it happen. I mean, startup is a really tough deal. I think 1 out of every 10 startups actually make it. And I work with these folks every day, and the most successful ones have got a good plan in place ahead of time before they spend $1. The ones that falter and struggle, they're ready, shoot, aim. They just go with their gut, run out ahead, and then get into trouble and have to try to salvage what's left afterward. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Got some ideas rolling around in my head. They're going to wind up showing up in the other part, but
Okay.
It did answer my question.
Any other follow-up?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I know I heard you recently say, you stated that you had a business What type of business was that you had here?
I had a little bit of a cylinder head manufacturing facility. And way back in the past, I lived in Europe for 11 years, and I worked for a multinational engine builder. We did like 80,000 engines a year, another 40,000 cylinders on top. And it was all aluminum, and at the time in the States, we were more sort of cast iron focused. If you're a car guy, you like this story. If you don't, then go, oh, and I'll stop. Right? Are you a car guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you're following me there, right? So anyway, I transferred to the States to work in their factory in Kentucky. I was in research and development for them. And one thing led to another, and my parents had moved up here from South Florida. And sort of via Texas and maybe Phoenix, and back there I said, all right, we're going to move to Live Oak, and I'll set up a thing here. So we built a lot of cylinder heads. It was more a production type thing, and ended up selling most of them online. And that's why we finally, when I ran out of heads, and I got a day job along the way because a lot of small business owners have to do that. And when I ran out of cylinder heads to sell online, then I said, okay, it's time to let the thing go. But that's how I got involved with Small Business Development Center, because I was at the back of Spicer's building, 3,000 square feet back there. And one day a guy rolled in and he said, hey, I'm from University of North Florida Small Business Development Center. And he helped me move along in my business. So when that job came open, I knew what it was about. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a follow-up to the follow-up?
Sure.
What did you find in your years of experience in having run a business here in Suwannee County to be your biggest obstacles to making your business, to growing it, to making it sustainable for a lifetime?
Right. Well, I think in the case of my business personally, which is every business is very unique. Yesterday in our professional training, we were talking about making some kind of a boilerplate, and you just can't fit everybody into one thing. So in my unique case, I came out of a manufacturing background, so I set it up as manufacturing, and we had done contracts with GM and Volvo and so forth. So my setup was, I had contacts in those branches. So the idea was to do more line production and sell on contract as service parts to an OE. And a couple of those didn't pan out, and so then we had to sort of recalculate, and then you move into sort of a repair type situation, which this small community can't support that. Works well in the bigger communities, but so that was my particular case. But I go back to what I said about startups. Working with startups for 5 years, having a solid plan, and really believing that the plan you put together is realistic, and that it's not pie in the sky, it's not blue sky, but it's realistic, and maybe even a little bit under realistic. And then testing that plan, and when you finally get to that plan and say, this is what I'm going to do, and it also gives me the roadmap to evaluate how am I doing month 1, month 2, month 3, so if there's a problem, I can go after it. That's been invaluable for startups to really succeed. There's a lot of stuff you don't know when you go in.
Sure.
And so as much as you can find out ahead of time that you know, then that's what's going to lead to success. Besides hard work, and a lot of you guys are small business owners, 24/7, right? Maybe not taking a salary, so that's part of it too.
All right, next question is, what type or types of economic development should Suwannee County be considering?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I've been spending a lot of time looking at it, and there's just, I think one of the biggest parts of the puzzle, we talk about manufacturing, the North Florida Economic, or the Florida Economic Development Partnership, they're sort of high on manufacturing. When you look at Suwannee County, we have pretty big, we have 9% of our job force manufacturing. But in that 9%, Pilgrims is included in there. Do you do the numbers? That's almost the whole thing.
Sorry, what did you say was included?
Pilgrims.
Okay.
Yeah. So food processing. So if you do 9% of 18,000 employees in Suwannee County, you're almost there with Pilgrims. So it looks on paper like we're manufacturing, but we're really food processing. So I'm not sure, and we also hear a lot of times about, well, the workforce is not trained this and that. We go back and look, there's another 9% sector in Suwannee County, which is healthcare. And not only is that a big chunk of our employment, but also it's a big chunk of our resources. You got River Oak that's doing a lot in training in healthcare, or Gateway College has a bachelor's, their first bachelor's degree was in nursing, sorry. So we have a lot of resources and a trained workforce in healthcare. And so then the question is, well, what are we going to do? Build a hospital, right, to put these people to work and use these resources? I would say one option is to target, say, the 55-plus community that wants to move to Florida and say, hey, this is a great place to plant, and we have the healthcare force, to help you in your later years. I know you've spoken about that also and some stuff. So that's one option. I'm not going to say there's one silver bullet. It's all of the above. 20% of new jobs are non-employers, like a lot of you guys. Pest control, right? General contracting. So you can't ever discount the non-employer part of the economy as far as job creation goes. And those things are often a result of other things. So if we had, say you're going to build at a new retirement community or whatever, then you're going to bring in construction jobs and service jobs behind that, and then also the healthcare. So a lot of those things are sort of interconnected. But I like the 55-plus thing. I think Advent Christian Village has been very successful. I think Florida's a magnet for that. I think we've got a nice mix of that. Also, want to keep our eyes on ag as well. 12% of our job force is in ag, and we have great resources there as well. We've got the Suwannee Research Center. That's one of like 15 in the whole state. So we're well positioned. They're constantly working on stuff that works in this area as far as ag. And I think we need to utilize that resource to continue to grow the ag community too. It's not the highest paid, but depending on what you get into, it might turn into it. I mean, there's a lot of research being done on cold oranges that'll grow in colder climate. The citrus industry wants to move farther north because of the green and the expensive land in the south. So a lot of people are looking at that. So I mean, putting a lot of those resources together, it's not going to be one silver bullet. I think it's going to be all of the above. But when I look at it, I'm positive. I'm not going to say, well, our workforce isn't up to the task. I don't think that's true. I think we might be looking in the wrong direction. No, we don't have a whole crop of CNC programmers or software coders. But what we do have is a solid crop of folks that are in healthcare. We have good resources for that. Folks that are in ag and so forth, non-employers. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of economic development types, what's your thoughts in the past 4 years that has taken place?
Well, we went through a transition from, I don't know if it's an older model or not, there's still some of them out there where you have sort of a combination chamber economic development type position, and you transitioned into a full-time economic director. And so I think just on the basis of transition, there's nothing to compare it to. So whatever happened was what happened. I think did a really good job of promoting the county, setting up sort of the promotion infrastructure that's needed to let people know we're on the map. And I think that was positive. I think what I missed, and that probably comes from my own job situation, but I missed metrics. I have certain goals that I have to meet every month in advocacy, in professional development, in training, time with clients, research, resources. And because of those goals, you can measure my performance and measure the impact based on those goals. And I think you have to have some kind of a metric to judge exactly to answer the question that you're trying to answer. Do we measure it by jobs created? Do we measure it by access to capital? Do we measure it by increase in revenue? Increase in tax base? So if you don't have those metrics in place, then you can't really answer that question. So, and in my first 100 days paper that I put in there, I said I want to develop metrics, work with you to develop metrics where you can judge my performance, because I want to be held to a standard. And if something needs to be tweaked, we'll tweak it.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, it appears that you've done doing your homework and everything. I have two things that I want to bring to mind to you, like incentive, job incentives, and we have previously did a point system. I don't know when you are familiar with that point system when it comes to the job, and some of the incentives that we have. How do you feel about that? Are you familiar with that?
Well, I wrote in my 100 days that I think a loan program is preferred, superior to an incentive program, just a cash incentive program. And it's just a simple math thing. If I say, hey, I want to offer someone $5,000 to clean up the front of their store, right? So I'll offer it as a grant. Then the $5,000 goes out of the treasury and is gone forever. And I'll get the benefit of the cleaned up storefront. If I say, well, I'll loan you $5,000 to clean up your storefront, and let's say you default for whatever reason, right? Then I don't get the money back. So I'm in the same place I was. I lost my $5,000 in the out of the treasury. If I loan it and you clean up your store and you pay it back, now I still got my $5,000 and I can give it to another business to do again. So that's why I think just on the simple math that a loan program is preferable to a grant program. And what we see on that list I said about why businesses relocate, incentives were down at the bottom consistently for the last 10 years. So it's sort of flashy and interesting. I think what you find a lot of times the businesses don't meet the goals, and then you're on the back end, you're trying to figure out, well, how do we incentivize them again? Incentive is a funny thing. Did anybody incentivize you to buy your iPhone? How many guys have iPhones? I don't. But, the iPhone's a great example.
I only buy by incentives.
What?
I only buy by incentives.
Yeah.
They don't give me something, I don't buy it.
Right. So, but the point
That's
is
me.
that the product sells itself. And so I think that if we can put emphasis on making Suwannee County a superior product, that incentives are not as big of an issue, because people will want to be here. We pay attention to the product, everything else will fall into place. No one's twisting anybody's arm to buy an iPhone, and they're paying crazy money for the thing because they want to have it. And I envision a Suwannee County where people want to be here, really want to be here. And there are certain, you had in the job description, what's the Suwannee advantage? There are some advantages to being here, and I meet a lot of companies that move here for those advantages. So you have a good product. If you have a good product, you don't have to incentivize it very heavy. I'm not against it, all the above, but I think it's hard to track on the backside, and you end up splitting hairs and things. A good example of an incentive program that's sort of sketchy, the High Life run in Hamilton County. That was on the front end. There was a lot of promises made about that, and now the 3 years in, the promises that were made didn't happen. And now the question is, what are we going to do? We're going to take it back. We're going to make them pay for it. What's the next plan, right? So in that case, the incentive didn't reach the goal, and now you're stuck with what do we do now? So we just made more work for ourselves. Does that make sense?
Well, the question kind of sort of, you answered, maybe not giving me what I'm happy to ask you for. And I'm talking about, based on the point system, like with job creation, when the jobs are created and
It's a performance. rate.
the,
Right.
yes, and.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
And then when it comes to that, if you say you're gonna have 10 employees, how many employees that you had? If you start out with 10 employees and your job is not producing, and you're down on that, that scale is not up to par. That's what I was trying to get.
Right. And that's the question is, well, if I'm supposed to create 10 jobs, does that mean I create them and then maybe I let them go later, or maybe they come and go?
Just to have the numbers to get to that number, and then you start to deplete your.
Right. So now I have to go back and police the incentive because you're not really doing what you said you were going to
Just
do.
doing it to get back.
And those that's what I'm saying, is you end up with sort of this enforcer thing where I'm like, well, you said you were gonna do this, well, we did do it, but now we cut back a little bit, but we're gonna bring it back, and so am I gonna cut your incentive a little bit until you get back to it? And now I'm gonna need an administrator just to handle the incentive paperwork, right? So, I mean, I think it works, and you see it in a lot of cases. I've had a lot of investors tell me that the incentives are the icing on the cake of a good deal to begin. Okay, so we talk about opportunity zones. This county has 250 square miles of opportunity zones. And I've talked to a lot of private investors that are very interested in some projects here. And they tell me again, I'm like, hey man, it's opportunity zone. They're like, it don't matter. Is the project good? If the project's good, the opportunity zone is icing on the cake. But I'm not gonna do a project just because it's in the opportunity zone. Okay? So that's sort of, I hope I answered that.
We go to the next.
Mr. Chairman, just around that point, would you, obviously, we have a lot of talented people in our county, more so than I think that most people see. So where do you fit business growth, internal business growth versus external business growth? Where do you see the dividing point on this? Are we at 50-50? We're at that 50% business growth from outside, 50% business growth from inside? Or do you think that we have opportunities within the county for our businesses to expand to companies that would employ a lot more people than they currently do?
Yeah, that's a great question. The organization I work with, part of our metrics and our goal setting is going after what we call SMEs, which is small and medium enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be at least 3 years in business and at least 5 employees, because statistics show that that's where most of your jobs are created. The reason that is, and some of you know as non-employers, that first employee is really a kick in the gut, isn't it? You gotta get a payroll service, and now all of a sudden I got 10 more forms to fill out, and I'm paying payroll taxes and more insurance and everything else. And but once you get past that first one, then you've gotten over the sticker shock, and now you see that benefits your company, then you go from there. And so I think that on both sides of that, I think helping non-employers get over the hump of hiring them, the first one, will do great things to, get job growth going beyond that. And the SMEs, where, they're established in business, they're ready to grow, helping them to get to that next level with more employees is definitely, that's been a target of ours, and we track that metric. So new business starts as far as job growth. Businesses the size of, say, Klausner, believe it or not, Klausner's like, we are so unique with that. That's like less than 1%. That business size is less than 1% of new jobs created year on year in Florida. I mean, it was almost like winning the lottery with that one. There's a little bit more growth with bigger businesses, say, Advent Christian Village size, Pilgrim size, and then the 1 to 20 employee group is substantially larger. But the non-employers, again, 20% of your jobs coming from non-employers, and I think getting them over the hump of going through payroll and everything else is a challenge, but it's something that if you make that one of your targets to work on, then you can help them over that hump, and then they'll be rolling, because small business owners know that adding people, in most cases, helps to add revenue. So,
Thank you.
I think this question here could be one of the most important ones, so I'd like to spend time on it. What unique opportunities does Suwannee County offer businesses which are considering relocation or startup?
well, I already mentioned opportunity zone, and I put that in my 100-day list. I think that marketing specific projects and industries in the opportunity zone, I think there's a lot of investor interest in that, and if it's marketed correctly and you get a couple to roll in, that you're going to see more follow. It lends itself well to construction projects because of the structure of the deal. So I think that's a great opportunity that will slowly go away over time, because there's a clock running on that. I mentioned 55 plus. I'd like to see projects on the size of the villages in Suwannee County, and so it's not just housing development, but it's a complete package with retail and everything. You realize that the villages, they put like 5,000 houses in a couple square miles, and we've got 250 square miles of opportunity. So surely we could carve out a couple square miles somewhere to drop in an intensive community like that that's active and attractive for 55 plusers. I've talked with some investors about it, and some developers, some guys that have publics in their Rolodex that would be willing to look into things like that. But there's a lot that goes into putting that deal together. I've also had some interest from investors on sort of ag-related industries that take ag byproducts and do other stuff with them. So, and like I say, we can't overlook ag in all of our discussions, because it's so huge here as far as our strategic importance to ag in the state of Florida. I'm sure you've heard Bob Hopkins tell us over and over again that we produce 30% of Florida's ag products here. And so it's a huge part of our community, and there's potential there for real growth if it's approached in the right way. So I never want to discount ag. And I think we've got great resources with River Oak and Florida Gateway and North Florida Community College they have programs and will tailor programs to what we need for our job force. And I think we sort of have a little bit of a negative thing going about our school system and our training here, but I think it's not as bad as we like to make it out to. I think there's a lot of positive going on there that we can build on. Did that answer the question?
You just said building on our educational system. What do you see as the next step for Suwannee County in that growth, in that educational growth opportunity? I know that there's, developing a school, a higher education school here is a lot more difficult when you have committees that basically say no, and are made up of schools from people from both schools. But what could we do as a community to move us to the next level in education?
Well, I think that I've been very impressed with River Oak in the last period of time. Mary's doing a great job over there, and it gives you the idea of what a flexible vocational training can look like. They're servicing needs of what we would call non-employers, auto mechanics, body and cosmetology and things like that. But also, they're flexible enough to add things as needed. And I think that's something that as you go higher up, you have Florida Gateway, the North Florida, and even into the university system, you get less flexibility in those areas. So I'm super impressed with what's going on there. And just a couple days ago, I got to call Mary because I had a couple other suggestions for her. But just, I'll give you an example. One of the things I want to talk to you about was, I was talking with somebody about CNC programming. When you talk about manufacturing now, one guy I got a buddy down in High Springs, he's got 5 CNC machines in his shop, and he puts a big chunk of metal in there and goes to bed, and that thing just goes crazy and spits out parts, and his alarm goes off 2 o'clock in the morning, gets up, throws some more metal in there, and goes back to bed. There's one guy making thousands and thousands of parts on a daily basis by himself. What does that take? That's new manufacturing. We don't have 10 guys on the assembly line anymore. So that takes a guy who knows how to program CNCs. Well, I programmed CNCs at the airport years ago. How did I get there? It started out at lower levels working with AutoCAD, which is something that you can introduce in high school. The AutoCAD gave me the basis that I needed to be able to program CNCs. So it's not like I have to go get a CNC diploma somewhere, which I don't even know where you would get one. But the basis in one class of AutoCAD was able to give me the skills I needed to operate a CNC machine. So I think just as little targeted things that you can funnel some high school students into will give them a basis where an employer can take that and work with it and take them to the next level and also grow as a business.
Chairman, I have a question. Just listening, you're saying about this gentleman got this plant down in High Springs. Look, to me, it sounds like a one-man operation. He put it in there, but then it's not a job increase for other individuals. It should be a job creation for more than one or two.
Right.
To where it's providing economic development. Economic development comes with affordable housing, good medical facilities, people in education, higher education. When you're saying, okay, for instance, in Valdosta, they had Valdosta Tech, they have these mechanics, and you said about parts. I love that type of stuff. If there were a plant out there that was producing heads, brake parts, you should know some of those manufacturers out there that have more than one job. We're talking job creation.
Right.
Not complete job where individual put metal in there and it's just a one-man operation. I am for opening up, job creation, because every year you got people coming out of high school. Everybody's not going to college.
Right.
It would give someone some type of job, some type of skill. When we're talking about real technical, that it would give them a start, a plan. That it's an on and on
Right.
production, it's like mass production.
Right. And I was using that as an example of how manufacturing has changed. I think, and I've mentioned it already a couple of times, but I think that when you look at the non-employer sector, it's 20% of jobs created. You can say that machine shop didn't create a job, well, it created one job. And whether or not it's going to create more, I don't know, the possibility's there. As he grows and expands that business, he will add people. And if he doesn't want to grow and expand, he won't. A lot of guys that are non-employers, they say, hey, I want to make a living for myself and I'm done, I don't need the hassle or anything else. But this isn't the only approach. I believe in an all of the above approach. I think I spend time in the chamber of Baker County twice a month, and that's still a chamber/economic development guy. And we talk about this, and he says, there's big deals, like Klausner or Pilgrims or whatever. He says they come along once every 7 to 12 years. And in the meantime, you gotta get down in the trenches and help whoever's moving the ball forward. And so I believe in an all of the above approach. And I just see that a lot of this stuff, sometimes it just takes the right combinations to push people to the next level. You know, it might be a contract. It might be connecting him with somebody who, instead of needing thousands of parts a week, needs 100,000 parts a week. And then because of his track record and expertise, we can get the financing that he needs to go big. So I think we can go there.
Mr. Chairman, here's a question. I believe we got off the subject, off the question a little bit. He was talking about, bringing manufacturing and bringing healthcare related things, but the question was unique opportunities that this county has to offer. I mean, is that our land's $5,000 acre versus 50? I mean, compared to, say, Alachua County, is it because maybe we're doing infrastructure work at 136? Maybe it's because of the interstate corridor we have. I mean, I just want to understand this before.
Right, so Suwannee County advantage, logistics is big because the I-10, I-75, access to I-10, I-75, that's big. What you said already, land, and what we saw with the solar deals, contiguous land. So lots of land that's not expensive and it's connected to each other. So access through the highway system and some rail, and then, the availability of land, large tracts of it, not that expensive. I would also add to that regulation. Suwannee County is, as a county, the city's a little bit different, but as a county, the county doesn't require a lot of things for a business, a home-based business or a non-employer or a small operation to get into operation. In some other counties, if I want to start a home-based business, like I want to weld in the shop behind my house, I have to go before the county and get a zoning change for light commercial at that point. This county, maybe officially it should happen, but every time I've inquired about it for a client, it's sort of been, well, as long as the neighbors don't complain, right? And we have a lot of businesses coming from South Florida that you may not even know about in your districts that are planting somewhere way out in the middle of nowhere and doing some really big stuff just because there's no regulation, no one bothers them, and away they go. And so I would add regulation to that. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be addressed or maybe changed, or maybe you've got ideas about how you want to go forward in that. But that's definitely a magnet for businesses that are looking at this area. I had a client that actually took his business and left Columbia County because they made him go in front of the zoning board for a home-based business. And he took his business and left. He was a painter. He was never at home anyway. And they wanted him to pay the money and go in front of the zoning council. He left and he told his guy, don't buy gas in this county, don't do it, come in here and work and we'll leave, don't buy lunch, So, so the access, the land, and I think ag is, like I said, ag is important. I think, and I'm going over the same stuff, but Advent Christian Village has done a great job of showing what that kind of community can be like. And when I say ag, I also include the poultry operations and dairy operations and so forth.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next question. Can you identify any significant impediment to business desiring to relocate in Suwannee County?
Any significant
Drawbacks?
drawbacks? Actually I can't. You got me, right? I would never say to somebody, don't come here because this or that or whatever. I can't imagine. I think there's places in the county where access is an issue. It takes a long time to get to highways if you need them. If that's not the nature of your business, then that's not an issue. Infrastructure can be overcome. If you really needed, super great, super fast internet, I'm sure there's places where that's not available. I have some farmers, that they couldn't get a signal or high-speed internet to save them, so that might be an issue. But there are places in the county where that is possible and where accessibility is good. So I can't come up with anything. Like I say, I think that the workforce thing has been, I think maybe it's a little bit too hot of an item. I think it's probably not as bad as we make it out to be. I know it gets a lot of talk because, you know, employers talk about it, say, oh, I have a hard time finding good employees. Well, I think everybody in the United States has a hard time finding good employees right now. And so that might be a little bit overblown.
Any follow-ups on that?
Hey, I have one, just kind of along the same lines. Do you think, and I know some other counties and states have done this, but do you think not having shovel-ready, projects ready, or buildings up, or that infrastructure you spoke to, do you think that would hold us back in any way, or is that not as important? It kind of goes with that question as far as the drawback
Yeah.
of you know, being appealing to a company or companies.
The Economic Development Partnership, for the last year, they've it's almost like every meeting you go to, they got that consultant out of Louisiana. He might have moved here by now, but he's talking about site selection. And they got a website, and, you know, so sort of that shovel-ready thing, being ready to go so that when a business is looking, they can just drop right in there. And so I can imagine for a business looking to relocate that's nice. I mean, if you came into a county and you're like, yeah, I'm looking for this many acres with this kind of infrastructure, and you're like, well, I don't know. There might be some, let's go see if we can find something. I mean, then you don't present your product well, right? But on the other side, I speak with a lot of investors that they look at the total project, and if the project is a good project, and that's considering everything, so that would be one of the elements of everything. But a lot of times, like we have the Catalyst site, and you can, everybody that visits, you can go run them out to the Catalyst site and say, look what we've got, right? Maybe they don't want to be there. Maybe that doesn't fit what they want. So you could spend a lot of time getting a few sites ready. If that's not exactly what the person wants, then maybe go to a different county. If you look at the totality of what's available, maybe in those cases, being more project specific is going to serve you better than just saying we've got these sort of cookie cutter, one size fits all things that we provide for you. People that are looking at big projects, they also have the connections and the wherewithal in a lot of cases to source what they need to make it happen. That's part of putting the deal together, right? So I think it's good to have sites ready, but it doesn't have to be a deal breaker.
How many years have you been employed by each of your 3 previous employers?
So I've been with the Small Business Development Center for 5 years, and before that I was with Golf Ventures, which was a golf course dealer out of Lakeland, and I covered the whole North Florida. Everything from Ocala north was all mine, and I ran around the golf courses. Did that for a couple years, coming off of 7 years at Florida Gateway. You know that Florida Gateway closed their golf program it would be 7 years ago now, and I was the program coordinator for that program for 7 years. And so when that program closed, I got on with Golf Ventures, and then moved into the Small Business Development Center.
You say golf, what?
Golf Ventures, yeah. This is a golf equipment dealer,
Okay.
so I ran around the golf courses all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, this is the wrap-up question, sort of. So we'll try to wrap it up with this with a little bit. I've got an extra question on there if they don't mind that I ask it. Why should Suwannee County select you as the next economic development director over all the other candidates?
When I look at the other candidates, I say everybody will do a good job and it's all gonna be different. Some person has a skill set in this, another person's skill set in that. I think that anybody that you choose will do a good job according to their skill set. My skill set, I've already shown it to you in the application, the paperwork, is academic based, but also down in the trenches based, working with businesses day in and day out, and booking impact for the communities that I work in, and also helping those businesses get to the next level. And so it's a proven track record of business success, closing deals, making things happen. And so that's what I have to offer with my skill set, understanding business planning fundamentals, understanding the economic development process, understanding what it takes to close a deal and make a deal happen, and networking, connecting people together. So that's what I bring to the table, and I'd love to make Suwannee County my client.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
No, I was going to see if anybody had a follow-up question on this one. Okay. My question is one of the things that I haven't heard anything about today from you is ecotourism. You know, my district is on the southern end. We don't have access to roads, to interstates. We don't have access to infrastructure either, except through Branford, which is somewhat limited. So I know that ecotourism is the only way that I'm going to see, mostly the only way I'm going to see growth in the southern end of the county. I want to know what priority you place on ecotourism development in Suwannee County in relation to all economic development, whether that involves business, outside business growth, or manufacturing. Where does ecotourism fit in your list of priorities?
Well, I think ecotourism and comparable to the rest of economic development is a marketing function. I mean, your biggest challenge with ecotourism is not creating the eco part that everybody wants to see, because it's already there. That's why we're here. That's why we love it here, right? But the challenge is the marketing part of it. And I bring to the table marketing expertise, helping small businesses market, to identifying their target and how we can reach that target. And so that would be my contribution to that. And as far as where it is on the priority list, I don't really, in that sense, don't have a priority list where I say, oh, I would spend 5 or 10% of the time there or whatever. I think, and I put it in the 100-day list, that I'd like to find out what you all's priorities are to help me set priorities. So I'll be meeting, or want to meet with you to find out what your priorities are for your constituents, and then say, and that'll help set priorities. And ecotourism and its stepbrother, agritourism, are out there, and they're very popular in certain segments of society. And I think it's, like I say, it's a marketing play. How do we reach the people that are interested in that? And certainly be willing to bring expertise to that, meeting with the business owners and finding out how we can market better to reach their goals.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I do have a thought, because he did bring up tourism, and that is part of this job that we advertised. How would you balance that? You know, I won't say how much time you spend here or there, but how do they complement one another, and how would that maybe help you in attracting different?
Right. Well, I noticed, you know, in that in the last 4 years, we've seen the Tourism Development Council sort of move into sort of an independent setup with a staff person. And so working with that staff person to make sure that she has the tools that she needs and resources to continue to move that thing forward, and also expertise-wise, as far as looking at the marketing portion of it. I mean, the tourism part is always going to be a marketing function, and so I spend a lot of time with my clients talking about marketing, and I feel like I have a really good grasp of it. and getting to the, where we need to be marketing wise to reach the people that need to hear that message. And so I think that the TDC is sort of a separate independent entity with a staff member now. Makes it a little bit easier for the economic director, but definitely needs to be offering support, expertise, resources, a sounding board to make sure it's heading in the right direction.
Anything else?
I have a question. Oh, go on.
You got
That was a different question, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I was just gonna offer him about 60 seconds for further remarks, unless y'all got any questions, that's fine. Steve? Yep, we'll go ahead.
One question I got that I hadn't really heard, what do you feel like the hours per week or days also that this job, what do you feel like it will require?
Right. And again, I go back to metrics. Those questions for me are based on metrics where you say, these are the goals, these are your priorities. And when those are set, then you work until those goals are achieved. And so right now, I have certain goals and metrics that I have to deliver to my boss. And I work as long as I need to get those done. It's not always office. I mean, my office phone is my cell phone, and I work whenever clients call. And I sort of envision the same setup here, is always being available. So it might not always be office hours, but it'll be hours that are goal focused, achieving the goals. So probably keep regular office hours like I do now, but definitely goal focused in the sense of this is the job that needs to be completed, and we're going to go after that. And I anticipate giving you accountability for the hours that I spend doing A, B, C, and D. So you'll get a list from me, whether it's weekly or monthly, that says this is where my time was spent. Is this acceptable or not? Do we need to adjust it? Do you want to spend more time talking to businesses and less time working with TDC, or more time doing advocacy, or less time here or there? It's all going to be open, because that's just a good way to function, right?
Thank you.
Just quick closing remarks, any?
I appreciate your time. You guys have a hard task, and I know it's not easy, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you. And this is a very strange forum for me. I don't really like it. But very stiff and formal, but hopefully we can meet each other also on a personal level from time to time, and on a different level communicate. But thank you so much. You've been very welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
You take a quick break? While
Thank
you're getting the next show, we'll take 5 minutes.
Thank you.
On our interview list is Jimmy Norris. Mr. Norris, if you'd make your way to the podium, we'll give you time for a quick opening statement if you'd like. No longer than 30 minutes, Richard.
You know, I had another appointment at 10 minutes. Good morning.
Morning.
Appreciate you guys allowing me to be here today. I must say this is a little bit interesting, kind of coming from my background, being pretty much an entrepreneur my whole life, and then moving over more into the public side. Many of you I've worked with and have relationships with all along the way, so it's a little bit different than just going up and speaking in front of some folks that you didn't have a relationship beforehand. So I know when you read about things you should ask and things you should say, it's never coming from the point of view that maybe you're already established and in that community, and so that's why it's been a little bit different for me. But I am Jimmy Norris. Obviously been in this community my entire life. Worked with my father in his business for many, many years. While I was away, I guess, at college, things kind of turned. He got injured, and I had to kind of come home and run the family business, and that's a long story, but that kind of led me on the path I'm at today. I went in business for myself, with my own company here, Southern Heritage Builders, in 2001. Been a member of the community and working in the community here since that point in time. So I guess that's 17, 18 years or whatever since I've had my own business, being an entrepreneur here. Got real involved with different civic organizations, with the College Advisory Board, all of those pieces, and Chamber of Commerce. And as you guys know, because you've seen me up in front of you many, many times, asking for your support and help on a lot of different projects. Went from being the president of the board to the executive director about 3 years ago. And that led me to where I'm at today, to be quite honest with you. The relationships that I formed along that path, and the people that I've met, and that includes working with this council as well as the city government and our previous director, Alvin Jackson. He and I became friends, and he shared a lot of insight and information with me along the way. So my heart's in the right place. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate you allowing me this opportunity.
We've got 10 questions prepared, and I'm going to let each commissioner ask 2 of them, and we're going to start with Commissioner Hale.
What unique abilities do you possess that make you a suitable choice for the Economic Development Director?
I'd have to say my work ethic. Being, as I said, being an independent business person, entrepreneur, I know some of you are. The buck stops and starts with you. I never had opportunity to lean or rely on anyone else. If the job was going to get done, I had to do it. So daylight to dark, 7 days a week, whatever it took to get the job done, just never bothered me. It was all about the results. I also think that in the later years, working with the different groups that I've been a part of, I've got an ability to put a great team together and to work with a team. I think you guys can clearly see over the past several years the momentum that we've been able to establish over at the chamber. And again, that takes a great board, but they've got to see you out front, and you got to be working twice as hard as they're working. And if they see that, then they buy in, they believe in you, and they're willing to get on board and do whatever you need to do. So that, again, technically, I guess that goes back to work ethic, because whatever it takes to make the job happen.
Any follow-ups from anybody?
Question number 2, are you prepared to make numerous out-of-town and/or overnight stays both in and out of state when responsibilities or opportunities related to the position require?
Yes, sir. That's not an issue. Couple examples, if that's okay. When Klausner was looking at coming to Suwannee County, I know some of you guys were a piece of that. I know Mr. Harris was all in the middle of that. I remember sitting in this very chamber talking about contracts that needed to be worked on. But we, as a construction industry and owning my own company, I actually saw the Klausner product at a trade show. And at the time, we were getting a lot of lumber into our community that was coming from Canada and other places. It was just bad stuff. I'm very particular. You can ask anybody, if you can't do it right, don't want to do it. So I had requested that the local building supply see if they could find this particular product. And they did, and they brought it into the community. Now, it cost us 10, 15 cents more per stud, but I used that Klausner lumber on every single project I did. Well, once the process came about with Klausner coming into the community, at some point someone mentioned to Mr. Fritz Klausner that we had a contractor in town that had requested his lumber and had been using it for a couple of years before they ever thought about coming to Suwannee County. So they approached me about going to Germany and Austria with the contingency that went over. And of course, when they first came to me, me being a business guy on my own, I'm like, I can't take 7, 8, 9 days off of work and pay for a $2,000 plane ticket to fly overseas. It's just too much of a strain. But went home that night, and Michelle and I talked it over, and the question she posed to me was, what if that's the one thing that makes the difference? So went back, called Dennis over there at that time at the Chamber and Economic Development office, and I said, okay, I'm in. So we flew over to Germany and Austria, met with those guys, and it hopefully made a little difference. When I walked into the room, Mr. Klausner came up and he said, "So you're the guy?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm the guy." So, I'm hoping that made a difference with those guys, because the comment I made to him was, "I wanted you in Suwannee County before you even knew there was a Suwannee County." So I think it went a long way with him, and I was glad to be a part of that. Since that time, partnering up with Dr. Jackson on some of the other things, I've been to California to recruit companies, we've been to New Orleans to recruit companies, and multiple other trips to, even if it's Tallahassee or, wherever. So that absolutely is not an issue.
Any follow-up?
Yes, sir. I know that you have a business currently,
Yes, sir.
and how will that affect your ability to go whenever, wherever, to wherever it needs to be for us to be able to do it?
Yes, sir. It won't. My oldest son, that actually was consideration when I took over the role at the chamber, and I had to have a heart-to-heart with my oldest son, who is taking over as my lead guy. Yes, I'm still the president of that company. Yes, I'm the one responsible for being sure the paychecks are issued and all that happens. But he's out there running it every day. He meets with the customers. He's getting the jobs done, and so he's been doing that in that role for about 3 years now. And so again, I don't see any issue.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just have.
Yes,
I've been out of town, and I saw you at several locations that I've been, like FAC and one of the conferences, I think, some conferences.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I know you say your son is taking over, and he should be well-oiled after a while. And I know you probably have intention on turning it over to him. Nothing wrong with you being the president. So just a compliment on you allowing your son to, to run that business, and also it's a compliment of you getting away, and seeing what economic development is all about also.
Well, I appreciate that, and it quite honestly, it's difficult when you pour your heart and soul into something, and you build it up. It was a difficult decision. I've always believed that kind of things, kind of what goes around comes around, and things kind of fall in place. And Shell's always on me about doors that open and close, and don't be beating on them if they're not opening up. But the more involved that I got in this community, the more I wanted to be involved. And through the Chamber of Commerce, when they asked me to fill in on a temporary basis, I had to have that conversation with Nikki about, are you ready? And is this what you want to do? I'm not just trying to throw it over so I can do something else. Are you interested? And obviously he was, and then he said that's where his career was and where he wanted to move forward. He had to do some growing too. I mean, I left a lot on him, so but he's done well, and that's been 3 years now. Thank you. This is gonna be a trick question, ain't
I don't see if anybody else had any more. Oh, it's my turn. Describe your experience with public speaking and presentations, please.
Well, as you guys know, been involved Builder Association, Rotary, president of all those organizations, and of course through the Chamber. I think it's pretty obvious. You've seen me out there speaking at all of these events, all of the different functions that we do after hours, leadership programs, and of course all of our large events that we do between the gala, the business of the year, all of the other events. It's not a problem for me to get up and to speak, especially when it's something I believe about and passionate about. So maybe I need to get the chair here to join me once in a while.
Mr. Chairman, just follow up.
Do what?
Just follow up.
Go ahead.
On presentations, obviously, there's a lot to public speak, a lot more to public speak than just getting up and standing in front,
Right.
keeping your composure. There's oftentimes you have to be able to prepare a lot of electronic presentations and such like that.
Right.
Considering the size of our economic development office, the assumption is there going to be a lot of it that's going to depend upon your ability to do it yourself. What kind of experience do you have in that?
I'm not gonna say that's my forte, that that's what I do on a regular basis, but obviously, you know, we've had to do multiple presentations through the chamber. So when we go speak at civic clubs, different organizations, putting PowerPoints together. Yeah, I'm not your techie guy that is the greatest at that, but obviously, I think I've got enough knowledge to put that piece together and, to kind of counter with that, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to ask a question at this point, but I know Carissa's in that office, and I don't know if she strictly works on the TDC piece or if she has availability, but to help on that side some too. But I can get done what I need to get done, like I said, whatever it takes.
Any other follow-up? Mr. Stone?
Okay. How do you define economic development?
Jobs. Simply. You know, obviously we want to improve the well-being of our citizens and the quality of life here. That's very important. We want to create more jobs. We want to, you know, improve our tax base. But everything just kind of comes back to jobs. And obviously, if it was so easy, the whole world would have it figured out. So it's not. But we've got to bring in new business. Saying that, I mean, we've got a lot of existing businesses here. I'm one of them. I mean, and I know some of you have your own business. We've got to work with those guys that, you know, they may be looking at expanding or growing their piece. So we want to work with those. Workforce, you know, just had the NFEDP meeting this past Friday. Workforce. I mean, the whole world's fighting it. They're setting up entire programs just to get that information out and let the public know that, you know, this is an issue. I mean, it really is. So workforce is huge. We got to get better trained up. Infrastructure, which I'm glad to say you guys obviously are working on that, but, you know, our highway system, we continually need to work on improving that. Utilities, which that's a big piece that we're working on right now. And to throw kind of my background in there, affordable housing. If we can get some people here and we can get some workforce and we get them trained, we need somewhere for them to live. So, you know, affordable housing has to be a part of that. And of course, we want to be mindful of, you know, our natural resources that we have here and be friendly to those with anything we do.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I also, by action in that, and I think, I feel like you are caught up because you work around that point system around Dr. Jackson. Our jobs are based on a point system and incentives, and I think you're familiar with that. I wouldn't want to not leave you out of the loop because I asked the other gentleman about that. Are you favorable for that point system also?
Yes, you know, it seems to be working quite well. I know, you know, many other communities are kind of looking at that and putting it in place, especially since we, you know, when the voters took the tax abatement away from us, we needed something to look at to help court businesses to come here. I'm in favor of it. I think it works quite well. I will say this. Recently, it seems to be that some businesses are getting a little less and less concerned about that tax abatement issue and incentives and more about finding the right spot. Even if your community can't offer that piece, I think they're starting to recognize that they need to find the right community. They also need the community to want them. I spoke with a company 2 weeks ago, and one of their questions was to me, does your community want me? And, you know, you kind of, sometimes we don't think about it from that side. And their business model was that, you know, we don't want to go into a community if the community isn't going to be on board and embrace us and want us. So, yes, I'm in favor of the system. I mean, I think it's a good starting point to give us a negotiating tool to get businesses here.
Is that anyone else? Mr. Richardson? That's my turn.
what do you believe should be top considerations of any business considering relocation or startup here in Suwannee County?
You're asking that from the business's point of view, if I'm understanding that correctly?
Yeah, the way I get this question is when you think about when you're talking to a business, what are the top considerations that a business would consider in moving their business to our county, or for that matter, or a startup in starting their business here in Suwannee County?
Okay. There's several things. Obviously, location. I mean, when they're talking about Suwannee County, I mean, we're looking at 1075 corridor. You know, we have rail, and you know, we're close to Deepwater Port. So, if a business is looking at us, and let's say they're, you know, manufacturing or transportation, I mean, I think the location is key. Workforce. I'm thinking they're going to want to know that we can come up with workforce for them. And in our area, I think that's a regional piece. Maybe we can't do that all in Suwannee County, but depending on the business, you know, we can pull from our surrounding counties to help with workforce. They're going to want to know, in my opinion, that we can, if the workforce is here, that we can work with them and get them trained up. Let's say we partner with our friends out here at River Oak, and there's a piece that they need to be trained in. There's information that needs to be provided to them. I think they're going to want to know that those players are on board. I think they're going to want to know, are you guys on board? Is the county willing to be friendly in their rules and regulations? Are they willing to help fast track things, or are they proactive instead of reactive to new business coming in? Go back to infrastructure. I think they're going to, you know, a lot of these things overlap, but I think they're going to want to know, if I'm going to put a business in out here, can you get me some water and sewer out here to help me do what I need to do? And again, housing. I really think housing's always there, because you know, if they're going to move into this community, can you support us? Do you have enough places for my people to live?
Thank you. Well, before we go, I'm sorry. I did, out of fairness to our last candidate, I want to make sure that the follow-up question that I had involved major obstacles, but having gone through all these questions, I'd rather just go ahead and pull that, because we have a question that comes later that involves major obstacles, and I don't see the need to at this point. I apologize. I just saw the note down there, and I thought, well, maybe I'd ask. So there's nothing else? No.
All right, next question. What type or types of economic development should Suwannee County be considering?
Everything. Not exactly. I do think we need to be diverse. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. But again, because of our location, our availability of large tracts of land, I think that, you know, manufacturing, even let's say manufacturing / assembly, you know, for instance, I'm building a widget, and I don't really make the widget here, but I pull in the 10 pieces it takes to make that widget, and they're transported in and we assemble them here. Those kind of jobs are going to be our higher paying jobs. So to me, that's probably way up there on the top. Transportation, you know, warehousing, moving from point A to point B, quite obviously because of the interchanges, you know, 10 and 75, the rail, all of the things we mentioned before. We're 20% agriculture, so agribusiness. When we went to California a couple of years ago, we were out recruiting, you know, a very large farm operation that, you know, they're looking at a lot of employees as well as warehousing and refrigeration. And so I think, you know, again, being diversified, agribusiness has to be a part of that. Also, clean energy. You know, you guys are pretty familiar, but we've had a lot of inquiries into our community about clean energy at those in locations of possible. Now, they're not going to bring a ton of jobs in, but the tax dollars associated with those projects gives you guys the ability to take that and turn it around and work more back into, our housing piece or our infrastructure piece. So, and then on the tourism side, I think ecotourism is big. These are pieces that have to do with economic development, but tourism is a part of economic development as well, with our springs and our rivers and our bike trails and folks, they travel all over the place to, go ride their bicycles. And there are some groups that come here. But wouldn't they love to ride that trail if we can ever get that trail finished from, one end of the county to the other? I had a gentleman mention me the other day about, has anybody thought about all the wildflowers we have here in Suwannee County? I mean, think about that. They're everywhere. They're in the pastures and everywhere. Why couldn't we promote that? Why couldn't those people come down and, it's the flower trail or whatever it is, but they come to our, people travel, and again, the gentleman I was talking to, really wise guy, but he reminded me that people travel to North Georgia to look at leaves. And how many people from here, probably everybody up here, has traveled to just go watch the leaves change, right? Well, why wouldn't they travel here to see the flowers out in the field and the flowers grow? It's an opportunity. Maybe we should think about working it. So.
Any follow-ups? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What unique opportunities does Suwannee County offer businesses which are considering relocation or startup?
Well, hate to say it again, but location. I think that's our biggest asset. I mean, we are right here. People know we're here. Between the interstates, we're the diamond, as we call it, between Jacksonville and Tallahassee and Valdosta and Gainesville. And also lower cost of land. If a company is looking at us and they're wanting to come here, we've got a great location so they can transport. We've got large parcels of land. We've got the regional workforce if we need to put that together. And I think we have the relationships that allow us to help get them trained up. Quality of life. I think that's a big thing here too, because when folks move here, we've got such a wonderful, safe community. But what are we going to do on the weekend? Well, we can go swimming at the springs. We can go to the river. We can go biking, and there's multiple facets of it, and so many of these overlap. But when you're looking at bringing the business in, I had a thought the other day about, and it's really like clean communities. If we're bringing a business into town, which direction should I bring them in? Which road should I bring them in? We've got some great, beautiful landscape here, but we need to work on that a little bit. So when Joe business owner and his wife come into town, we see a really nice entranceway, and everything is manicured, and we're welcoming that business to town. So we can do it, and we have great opportunities to do it.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions?
No, I don't know that.
Can you identify any significant impediment to business desiring to relocate or expand a business?
Government,
Facts.
rules, regulations. Obviously, that's always what gets in the way. If we're talking locally here, I would say if I'm a business and I'm thinking the Suwannee County, I think what's going to be, some of the issues I'm going to hit. Again, can you guys get me the employees? Can you do that? That's going to be. Do you have my infrastructure? Now again, we know we're working on that piece. Between utilities available here in the city and their reach, and then of what the county's doing and looking out to the grants that have been going after, to provide water and sewer, so, but I do think that as a business, when you're looking at that, they're gonna wanna know that. Can you get the employees? Can you get them the infrastructure to make the business work? And again, housing. There's nowhere for these folks to live. So, if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking those are my trouble areas. Now, put on my other hat, I'm saying we're working on that. I know affordable housing's been brought up, we're working on that piece, we're working on the infrastructure piece, we're working on our workforce, so don't want to turn this into a negative conversation, but
Any follow-up?
Just wondering what I wrote. I got it, good.
we got hieroglyphics over there, I don't know.
It turned in, might as well be hieroglyphics, because I can't read my own writing.
I'm good. No?
Okay. None of these questions, bad questions, but, how many years have you been employed by each of your 3 previous employees?
3 previous. Furthest back one would be 16 years. The second one would be 18 years, basically to present, which is my own company that I run. So that is ongoing. And then as actual paid employees, the chamber director, 3. Was on the board there about 4 previously, but those were not paid.
Just doing the math, sound like you had to go back to high school to get that third one.
When you work in a family business, you start in high school. So yeah, I'm carrying it back to about 84, which was when I was legal to be paid on the payroll. It were many years before that. So
Any other questions, any follow-up on it? Mr. Richardson?
All right, so wrap up.
uh-oh.
Why should Suwannee County select you as the next economic development director over all the other candidates?
Good friend of mine told me this, and I'm just going to say it the way he said it, because I am Suwannee County. That's as simple as that. Been here, left a lot of blood, sweat, and tears here, run my own business here in this community, paid my taxes here. My family's here, my wife's family's here, our children are here, our grandchildren are here, and there's no place I'd rather be. When you sit in front of someone or you go to anywhere in life and you meet with someone, I think you can tell whether they're genuine or passionate about what they do. And that's the way I've always been. If I'm passionate about it and believe in it, then I'm going to give it every single thing I have. And that's the way it's been for me in Suwannee County. I fell in love with it, and I want it to be the greatest place on earth. I believe it is. There's lots of wonderful people here. But when it comes down to it, I think, let me steal this from Mr. Harris, I think I've heard him say before, at some point we got to kind of quit, raising our children and then exporting them out to other communities. And luckily right now, my children are here in Suwannee County and are working here in Suwannee County, but I want to see all of our children working here. I want to see their children working here. So, because I am Suwannee County, that's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Got a little bit of a follow-up to that.
I thought he said it was the last one.
We're not
It's a
done
wrap-up
with you. We're not done with you yet. We all realize you're filling in the role as the director at this point.
Yes, sir.
What is your thoughts? How have you felt being in that role? Also, are we getting leads and information and people interested in things? I know
Yes.
some of those you can't share with us, but you can give us an idea of.
Right. Yeah, as you know, there's certain things I can't. I can tell you, just signed a confidentiality agreement. Can't tell you many things other than that, but so that's a good sign, right? So they don't want you to know who they are and what they're doing. But yes, I would say in the probably 2.5 months that I've been covering that office, I'd probably say about 4 what I consider decent to good leads. They're all different. You know, some may be small, some may be large. I can share with you one piece that I think is okay. One of these pieces I've been working on for about a year, actually. It's before this job, but we talk about workforce and education. Currently working with, they said it was okay to say the name, but a local college. We have a need, you know, to train the workforce to bring education here. And they're looking at bringing a satellite campus into Suwannee County. And if this goes as planned, we're looking at maybe about 5 years, actually, a facility. Now, obviously, it has to be successful. The goal here is, you know, our students, so many of them are dual enrolled these days, and they're having to travel out of our community. Well, what if they could, in 1 or 2 minutes, be at the campus site? What if they could get that right here? What about, I remember when I commuted to North Florida, you know, there was 3 or 4 of us, and, you know, we were pulling together our gas money to try to get there and hoping we could make it. And, well, some folks can't make it. It's just difficult for them. So what we've been working on is bringing a piece right here to Suwannee County so they can get there after high school. They can get the next step right here at home. I hate to put numbers on it, but they want to be here. I think we want them here. I need you guys to support that piece. And if everything shakes out, they want to open the doors this May and start providing some services to the community. So, yeah, there's some exciting things out there, and I've really enjoyed meeting. And that's the thing, Commissioner Stapleton, you start developing relationships with people. You know, I've been working with these folks a year, so naturally when I moved over to this position, it was very easy to, you know, to bring them on over. But some of the other companies that I've been working with, one large piece that we've been working with, they contacted like 3 days after Dr. Jackson left, they made the phone call. And so I've been working with those for 2.5 months. They have actually had people that flew into town here and met with me. So, you know, we've looked each other in the eye, sat across the table from each other, and you get to know people. And so, yeah, there's positive things. There's exciting things. I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have one, just to be in fairness to the other applicant, you had already kind of talked on it, or spoke to it, but, you know, this job does require some tourism development as well.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'll ask kind of the same question, how do you see that playing in this role? As a plus or a distraction, or how it can complement the ED position, et cetera, in our county?
Well, it's important. You know, I think most of you know I was the TDC director for about a year. So, you know, obviously there's inside knowledge of that and how that works and what the statutes say and don't say. Put on my chamber hat, and I'm going to tell you that TDC has been very important, because without those guys helping to give us marketing dollars, we couldn't bring 20,000 people down here and get them to spend money in Suwannee County. Those festivals, it's a piece, because, you know, it's not bringing all these jobs, so to speak, like a manufacturer would. But yes, it's a piece, because people do come in, they do spend their money, but they don't put a huge strain on our services. So then they're back out. As far as the role, working the way it's been working so far, while I've been filling in, Carissa takes care of most of the TDC piece, and and now again, my time has been severely limited trying to cover all of the pieces the last several months, but she takes care of most of the TDC piece, and I oversee, actually have a meeting with her as soon as I leave here. So it is important. We do need to build on it, and like I mentioned on the ecotourism, flowers in the fields, it's another piece of diversifying. So we need to foster and grow that tourism side. We have all these gyms right here in our community. We need to make it a nice piece that doesn't strain our services, but brings people to town. And, you know, when we do that, hey, eventually, you know, hopefully we'll get that new hotel out there we all been hoping for. That'll bring jobs also. That relates back to tourism, because if those people are coming to town for festivals out at the Spirit or wherever, you know, they need a place to stay. So, yeah, I'm for tourism, yes, sir.
Just give you a quick 60 seconds for any closing remarks.
Again, I appreciate all you guys very much. It's been a real honor to work with you so far, and again, working in the position right now. It's just a little different because I'm already in there and I'm already doing it, and I already have talked to many of you guys about your thoughts on things. So I do appreciate it. I've got a whole list of questions I was going to ask, but I guess 60 seconds I don't have time. So, like I say, just want to let you know that I'm thankful for the opportunity, and I believe in Suwannee County. Win, lose, or draw, I will always be here supporting you. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I can't ask you any questions.
Ask a question.
No, you're good.
I'll stop where you headed. Thanks, sir.
I guess I should leave now.
Yes,
We want to wait to talk about you after you leave.
Well, I'll stop while I'm ahead.
All right. On your score sheets that y'all have.
Can I get an extra one? I've marked up so much of this.
Yeah, I did. I already got the next one.
Yeah, that's fine.
I got it.
You go ahead and get them totaled up. Also,
I haven't changed anything.
we had 10 questions. There is a spot under other. If you feel either candidate showed a certain skill or anything that you want to add them a couple points, still the total can't go over 50. Just keep that in mind. That's on there. Once you have done, we'll just pass it to the clerk. We'll give him a few minutes to total them up. And then we'll enter into some discussion once we know scores. Unless y'all have a different way you want to do things. Watch your picture in your head, no matter how you drink it.
No, I'm kidding.
Sure,
I was swimming out.
They trying to make the rest of us look bad.
You remember old school?
Just remind myself that I'm not good at math anymore.
We get some of that background music like on Jeopardy.
Mr. Harris, I got a phone call this morning from the farm out on 136, Eric's Home. They're doing some expanding, and they're having some problems with the road washing out 153rd. I told them to try to get out there maybe today or tomorrow and take a look at it.
Yeah.
I just bring that up here because it's in District 1, so I figured I'd mention it to you, my daughter's here.
We view these things as a countywide need.
I understand that, but I just didn't want him to think I'm going behind his back trying to get something done in his district.
Mr. Chairman, while you're waiting for
Yeah.
Mr. Musgrove
Get your name and address for the record.
to add more things. Suwannee County. I'm Randy. Whatever you come up with, whoever rises to the top on our evaluations and scoring, what's your plan going forward? Would you like for the county attorney and myself to sit down and work on a contract like we did previously, or how do you want to address that?
I talked with Mr. Bat this morning, and I was gonna bring the board afterwards, that either the board's designate you and Jimmy, and sit down and come up with maybe negotiate, and once you all come up with what you think is fair, hoping to put together time to bring it back on the next board meeting as an additional agenda item.
In regards to salary and
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
we-
something we need to discuss.
Yeah, I'm not talking about, I mean, if, obviously, it's gonna be a negotiation between whoever, I think most of them put negotiable or a range. We come upon an agreement between them to bring it back at the next board meeting. And if we all agree on it on the next board meeting, I don't see no reason not to have a contract ready if they've already reviewed it, to get them going. Unless y'all have a different scenario, y'all.
No, I think that, how we did previously with Mr. Harrison, I think the chairman and the county attorney, and before we hired him, and actually when we did with Dr. Jackson, same thing. With the chairman.
I think the components are pretty standardized in the contracts.
Yeah.
I think that's official.
Are we gonna agree on the range today, though?
So, well, when I talked to Mr. Pratt, he said since this isn't a regular board meeting, not to really get into that, but most he would recommend was directing the,
We did advertise the range,
yeah, we advertised that range.
so you did advertise,
Don't make me lose my-
$250,000 to $300,000 a year, but we can always try to
okay. Hold on,
negotiate that down.
If we take your 150, that'll get down to.
We'll negotiate it down. We can meet with whoever it is and just, take that same framework that we had before.
I can't read my signature. Well, what is that? That's what it's supposed to be.
Generator.
Generator back at two circles.
Sounds like that thing needs tune-up.
At least it came on.
They was
Yeah.
saying things started, they're pretty good.
contact Rick and we'll look at number one and number two. See if the board wants to move forward with negotiations with number one. If so, then just direct Chairman, Mr. Harrison.
We're talking about next Tuesday meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's an additional agenda item,
We,
but
that's fine.
I don't
That's
see
fine.
a reason for us to postpone it any longer than we need to.
You know, 'cause
Unless y'all have
the
other-
first of the year for your,
I'd like to see more, whoever it is.
Are we talking about getting into next week's agenda, or we're talking about getting into the
Next week.
next week? Do you think we're gonna be able to?
I
all
think
these
we
candidates
can. I
out
mean,
there?
we've got, like I said, the framework isn't gonna change. Those are pretty standardized terms and conditions in the contract, so it's just a matter of meeting and talking through and negotiating.
I've got a question real quick. Maybe Mr. Harris. Do you think we, I just wonder if, I feel like this is a good job for anybody that's looking for a job that's got some background. But do you feel like we missed the boat somewhere on getting applicants? I mean, is there something that we could do?
I don't think so. Here's what happened. When we had, we're living in an entirely different economy than when we advertised these positions before. What happened in 2007 when the economy crashed was all of your economic development directors and all the local governments across the country got fired because local government thought, well, it's their fault. So when we advertised several years ago, there were a large pool of applicants that were still out there looking for jobs. In this economy, that's entirely different. All those guys are working, everyone's hustling because the business communities out here have lots of money to work with. The banks freed the money up. There's a lot of cash out there floating around. So the local governments had to hustle and recruit these directors that could start bringing all those companies together and bring the pieces together and sit down with terms and conditions and negotiations. So we're in an entirely different climate today than we were then. But we advertised probably on a broader scale this time. We used ICMA, we used a lot of internet services out there, FAC, all of the locations that anyone seeking this type of position would have gone to looking for these jobs. So we got the message out there, and we advertised for longer than other positions that we advertised for.
And I think we got two good applicants. I'm not saying that at all. I really do. But just it's kind of strange how some can't get here because of snow or because they just drop. They just throw their hands up.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's disappointing that they couldn't be here, but I think that also speaks to a level of commitment.
I was going to say the same thing. To me, that speaks volumes that you took time to fill out an application, but you didn't take time to schedule around getting here.
Right. And I agree with that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how you can do that.
It's unfortunate that
I agree.
the last applicant couldn't be here because of weather issues. That's something that is obviously not her fault. And I think that's always something that we could have taken in consideration, but she also voluntarily declined.
Well, you couldn't really.
So
We as a board didn't offer the Skype interview
Yeah.
or the phone interview to the first lady, so I mean you can't really
no.
offer to the second.
I think the first one was a little bit different in the sense that, it was not preparation as far as I was concerned, but the second one, I don't know if they could have, if it could have been helped either way, if we had the other opportunity, and if the board was so inclined to give that one person a little bit more time to get here, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I would also be opposed to boards that just accepted her declination as what it is, and she just declined to.
Well, I just think when somebody speaks up and says, if I'm going for an interview that I'm very serious about and I want to be there, I'm not putting I'm on decline in my statement.
Yeah.
I'm putting I need to work with y'all and make this happen. Whatever we need to do. Is there anything you can do to accommodate me for what's going on? Not that that's not going to be my second sentence.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that.
Well, I just looked at the date the email was sent, and I can't get a flight today or tomorrow, it doesn't sound like a lot of preparation was put into looking for a flight the day of, or the day before. So that was where I was at with it. And plus, I wasn't overly impressed with the resume when I went through that on amount of, or lack of employment over the last 7 years. So I'm fine with that one resigning. For the withdrawal.
I'm not disagreeing, I think it's a productive conversation, what we're having as we move forward for other things that's open.
I think what we've seen with the applicants is nothing that's not being seen all over the country. I mean, you see it on the news all the time, the job openings, there's not enough qualified workforce for it. I'm sure if we would have lowered the standards, we would have got more applicants, but I mean, we set it where we wanted it, and I mean, we got what we got.
I think everyone on there has a job already too.
Right.
Kind of what Mr. Harris was saying, so I think this is obviously this speaks to what they may be a next move for them, but it wasn't important enough to.
Right. And I think there's a huge difference between, the last time we interviewed, I mean, we had good candidates, and this time we have good candidates, but I'm glad to see that we had local talent that was able to step up to the plate and come prepared. So we got the total back. Mark Yarrick, total points was 151. Jimmy Norris was 206. So Jimmy Norris is ranked number 1, Mark Yarrick number 2. So we have a ranking. I guess from there, do y'all want to enter into negotiations with number 1 and direct chairman, administrator, and Mr. Pratt to do that over this next 3 days? Try to have something back for us to consider at the next board meeting.
Chairman, I like to say, go a little further. I feel somewhat pleased because Sonara has, he's worked with Chamber TDC, and I listened to all the things that he had. I feel confident that we have someone in place, and when it comes to the question that Commissioner Singleton mentioned just a while ago, and Mr. Harris has said that we're in a different time right now. And I know in 2014 when we did the hiring and we selected the first one, he turned it down. But Dr. Jackson was the next one in line, which he graded out very well. Same thing with Mr. Harris. When we hired him, there was another candidate out there. He declined and we went to the next. We graded out very well. So I hope this is the case that we have, and as the chairman said, we went outside and got a great employee. Now we have someone on the inside our community, and I feel quite confident that he has some insight on what's going on in our community. And I'm pleased with it. So I said we move forward with the negotiation with chairman, our administrator, and our attorney.
Is that pretty much the consensus of the board?
Yep.
Well, we don't need board action on that, maybe just direction. All right, well, we'll be in no further business. I guess we'll adjourn the meeting.
I'd like to say one thing before we leave. Just my condolences and thoughts and prayers with your family. It's a great loss, and you're in our hearts, and if there's anything we can do, I understand it's a terrible time, but we appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for your loss.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?